Archaon, Everchosen, leader, local hardman. Today we're going to learn everything he's capable of on the battlefield. So Archaon will start off as a footlord, but you will of course put him on his mount as soon as possible and leave him there. Stats wise, the man is literally insane. He has everything you could possibly want in a character ever. He's got tons of defenses, lots of armor, silver shield, big melee defense, lots of melee attack, big weapon strength, armor piercing, magical attacks, fire attacks, big charge bonus. Like I said, literally everything. And this is just his base game custom battle stats, not even buffed up in campaign. So naturally, he's good at, well, just about anything he wants to do, really. Oh, and let's not forget he's got magic as well. But we're not going to go through the spells. I've got magic lore guides for that. I'll link them at the end if you want to check them out, if you want to learn how to use all the magic. Otherwise, let's take a look at his unique abilities, starting with the Crown of Domination. This is an area passive, gives leadership to himself and nearby allies, as well as an immunity to psychology to allies, and makes him cause terror. And the terror is about the only thing we can really make use of here. When a unit gets to 13 leadership or below, you can bring over a terror unit such as Archaon and he will instantly scare them off. So this is the only way we can really make use of this skill, otherwise it's just a nice passive to have. And you know, it's only 4 leadership, so it's not exactly a big buff anyway. I wouldn't say it's worth trying to think about where you could practically apply an immunity to psychology. There's probably just not time for it in the heat of a battle, so mostly just make use of the terror with this. And then we have the Slayer of Kings ability. This is a massive damage boost for Archaon himself for 25 seconds. Also provides a 50% boost to splash attack power. Now, you hear splash attack, you might think it means it's going to be good in crowds. And well, the damage boost and Archaon's general toughness and damage output means he can be good in crowds by all means. And if you drop Slayer of Kings when he's fighting a strong or tougher elite unit, that could be very useful. But the splash attack power just increases the knockback of the weapon, which against infantry doesn't really do a lot other than knock them a bit further away, which doesn't really have any practical benefit. But where increased knockback power can be useful is against other lords and heroes, single entities, anything that can be staggered. Monstrous infantry as well, but it's going to be most useful alongside that damage boost, taking out ideally lords or heroes. So Archaon is a great duelist and a potential character killer, assassin, whatever you want to call it. If you pop all his abilities when he goes to fight a character, he is going to be absolutely insane. You can see here most of his stats are near or over 100. It's pretty nuts. This is including 2 of his other abilities to boost melee attack and melee defense. Not to mention that he can use the spell Spirit Leech as well, which is great against lords. So Slayer of Kings is going to help Archaon be that character assassin if you want, or it can just beef him up when he's fighting crowds. So that brings us to the other 2 buff abilities. Fight or Die, this is a pretty common one for many lords. It's a melee attack boost for an area, so a couple of units. Also leadership as well, could be useful in the late game, but for the most part, melee attack. And then there's the Armor of Morkar, a nice melee defense boost to an area as well. Charge Reflection, but ignore that for now, we're going to talk about that in a second. Now these 2 abilities, Fight or Die and Armor of Morkar, are support abilities, so they're supposed to be used to support your boys, primarily on the front line perhaps. So as soon as the front lines clash at the start of the battle, you can have Archaon in there with them and drop those 2 buffs to support your frontline units, maybe the ones that are looking like they're going to have worse matchups, and it can just help you make the most of those 2 area abilities. Now coming back to Armor of Morkar and the charge reflection that it has on the ability. I'm not entirely sure what the charge reflection is on there for, because charge reflection is damage that is done to a charging enemy, but only when your unit is stood still. My question is that charge reflection damage going to be greater than the damage that the unit would do getting its charge bonus from charging the enemy back? So I did a little bit of testing with Empire Knights charging into Marauders. I gave them Armor of Morkar and charged them into the enemy to see how well they would do. And I also did the same thing with a unit stood still and bracing and just taking the charge and doing the charge reflection damage. The long story short of it is that the unit that did charge the enemy back did do more damage to them, but took more damage itself in the process. Whereas the unit that stayed braced didn't do as much damage, but it did somehow survive better. But I'm not sure that had anything to do with Armor of Morkar, and maybe it was just because they were tightly packed, they didn't fly around as much as the charging unit. I don't know. Either way, I'd say ignore the charge reflection on this ability. It's not that useful and difficult to set up to make good use of it anyway, so just use it as a melee defense boost. Another good way we can make use of all these abilities for Archaon though is by having him go around with a group of cavalry or maybe monstrous infantry, as he'll also be able to make good use of Paragon of Ruin in this situation. It's an area buff to mainly charge bonus, gives the immunity as well. And all you have him do is go around with a group of cavalry, let's say, and then you drop all those buffs, the melee defense, the melee attack, the Slayer of Kings if you want, and have him attack other strong cavalry, monsters, whatever, and they'll all just be juiced out of their minds, doing tons of damage very quickly. As you can see, getting rid of this bear cavalry incredibly quickly. Another example, Archaon with the Summoners of Rage, great anti-large unit, going after a dragon. The Summoners of Rage will probably already mess up this dragon, given what they're capable of doing, but if you give them 24 more melee attack and 24 more melee defense, they will do even better, and it will terrify even the most dangerous of dragons. Look at this dragon quivering. Little fella's terrified, and rightly so. You could even have Archaon go off and do something else now. He doesn't need to stay here. The cooldown on these abilities is quite long, so he doesn't have to stick with these units all the time, just kind of when he wants to give them those buffs and help them out. But yeah, overall, Archaon, very versatile. You've got the three main ways you could use him there: as a crowd fighter, supporting the boys on the front line; as an assassin, going around hunting and killing characters; or going around with a little flanking party of cavalry or monsters. Or even a kind of combo, so you could go up to the front line first of all, drop Armor of Morcar and Fight or Die to buff up the boys, and then have Archaon go off and try to assassinate a lord or hero, use Slayer of Kings there. You've got a lot of options. Like I say, he's very versatile, one of the strongest lords in the game for sure. Not to mention all the magic synergies he can probably have going for him as well, so there's a lot there. Here's the magic guides if you want them. Hope you've enjoyed this. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to support this channel, do check out the channel memberships or the Patreon. I'll see you in the future.